Okay. Hi everyone. For today's class, we'll talk about this topic, no? Art and artisans, no? Production process, medium technique, and curation. Uh, but if there's a one word which we have to remember in this lesson is the word medium. Okay, medium, because that's the focus of this lesson on medium. In one word, not medium. I remember in the last lesson, we talk about the principles of art and the basic elements of art and the principles, no? The basic elements and principles of art, okay? But those are useless without the medium, no? So the medium is important. The artist, no? These basic elements and principles of art, as well as the medium. Okay, you'll know later why. Okay, but before that, I want you to give the outline, the outline of this, what we will do today. But we can see it also in the learning objectives, no? So let me read this and tell you the outline later. Value the true meaning of arts, medium, and technique. Enumerate the basis of medium. Enumerate the types of media for visual arts, sculpture, and music. So in a way, class, today's lesson, we can divide it into three parts, no? We'll talk about the medium for visual arts, and then the medium for sculpture, and then the medium of music. Okay, but when we talk of basis of medium, there are two. There are two types of arts, or classifications of art on the basis of medium. Because remember, last time we talked about the classifications of art into what? Major art and minor art, right? Where music is one of the major arts, right? Music. Again, we will discuss music here, but on the basis of medium. On the basis of medium, we have two. So we have the visual arts and the audio arts. Music is part of the audio arts. But you might wonder, no? Because actually it's very obvious why it's audio, because you use hearing for music, right? To appreciate music, no? So that's part of the audio. But there are other things which are part of audio, no? But this one you'll be surprised, no? Literature, no? Literature is under the audio art, no? But you might be surprised because audio, when you say audio, hearing, no? But literature, probably you're exposed more to reading, no? But I think the fundamental about the literature is that in the previously we use hearing, no? For the literature, no? Usually, I don't know, you know, balagtasan, right? The balagtasan. So we use hearing, no? But of course, not only hearing, but also because balagtasan is like a stage, no? Stage, more of a stage play. So we also use our eyes, no? But probably in the previous generations, when it comes to literature, you use hearing, no? You use the audio. Okay, that's why this is part of also of the audio art, the literature. However, we will not discuss that part. If you're interested, you can study that more. That part of the audio art, as no audio art. When it comes to the medium, no, the literature. But what we will do is the music, no, for the audio. Then we'll have the visual arts, no, and the culture and the sculpture. Okay, so again, on the basis of medium, we have two: the visual and the audio. But we'll discuss in detail later about this visual, because there are also classifications for visual arts as well as for the audio arts. And then also after that, we'll discuss about the technique. We'll go back again to the artist and the medium. Okay, the relationship between the artist and the medium. How important the medium to the artist, and the connection between the medium and the technique. Okay, but after those discussions, you will see this three parts in this lesson, like the major topics that we will talk about for this lesson, divided into three: medium of visual arts, medium of sculpture, medium of music. But before that, let's discuss these two. Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so what is medium? So it comes from the Latin word medium, no? It denotes the means by which an artist communicates their idea. So now I think you know why medium is important. Not only the basic elements of art or the principles of art or the artist, no? So you have to include the medium. Okay, so the artist, the basic elements, the principles of art, and the medium. Because of this, it's the means by which an artist communicates their idea. That's why it's called medium. No? The stuff out of which they create the work of art. The materials which the artist to translate their feelings or thoughts into a beautiful reality. Okay, that's why it's important. But it cannot stand alone, right? It cannot stand alone. Just like an artist cannot stand alone. The artist needs these basic elements and these principles. In the same way that basic elements and the principles can stand cannot stand by themselves as well. In other words, all of this need each other, no? Need each other. Okay? But it's the artist who will decide, no? In a way, is the main, no? The main element, no? The artist who will decide what medium to use. Okay? And how to combine all these elements, no? And the principles of art, no? The artist will be the one to, no? To decide that. That's why among this, I suppose you will agree, the most important is the artist, no? The artist. But the artist cannot stand by himself, no? He needs this, these elements, no? These elements of art and the medium, okay, and the principles of art. So anyway, let's go back to the medium. Okay. So we have some examples of the medium. Okay, examples of the medium. So we have the pigment of painting. So that's one. The stone, no? And then we have the wood, no? The cement. Okay, so again, these are arts, huh? But later you see the classifications, no? Then we have the bronze, the steel, no? And then this one, the one I mentioned to you, no? The medium for literature is the words. The medium for music is the sound. But later, the last part, when we talk about medium of music, but we already know the medium of music is the sound already. No, it's the sound. It's just that it can be produced by by the human voice, no? Okay. But the one that we'll talk about is sound produced by instruments. So that's the focus on that part. Now, when we talk about medium of music, the focus is more on the instruments, the sounds produced by instruments. That's why later we will classify instruments into 5. No, that's the last part. I think I'll give you an idea now so that you can get also the outline for the last part. No? So we will talk about these types of the instruments for producing sound in music, such as the stringed, no? The stringed instrument. Okay, we'll have examples of that. What else? The woodwind instrument, the brass instruments. So we have 5 class, and the last one is the percussion, no? Percussion. Okay. So there. So we have stringed, woodwinds, brass, and percussions. I think just 4, no? I'm sorry, just 4. I'm talking of the other one, the other 5. Okay, so just 4. Okay, 4 types of instruments, no? 4 main types of instruments producing the sound, which is used as a medium for music. This is the last part, no? I have to mention now the outline so that later you know how to organize them in your thoughts, no? That's very important. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, after discussing this, we will relate this media or these mediums later, not to the artist and the technique. But for now, let's classify this medium into 2, which are called the visual and the auditory, as I mentioned. So under visual, we have here 2 classes, no? But first, the visual spaces are those whose mediums can be seen and which occupy space, just like this, no? These are grouped into 2 when we talk of visual arts. We have the 2-dimensional and then the commercial art and decorative art. So under the visual art, which is 2-dimensional, we can have these examples, no? These examples, the painting, the drawing, the printmaking, then the photography. Okay? So later we'll talk more about this, no? This visual arts. As I mentioned, no, in a way we can classify or we can divide this lesson into 3 major topics, no? The medium of the visual arts, and then the medium of sculpture, and then the medium of music for the auditory. For the auditory. Now let's go to this one example of this, which is a class of visual art. Okay, commercial to decorative art. This one examples. We have community planning, industrial design, ceramics, and then furniture making. Now for the audio, now the auditory art, we have the two, no? The literature and the music. But again, later, we'll just focus on the music, no? The media of music. So time arts are those types of medium that can be heard and which are expressed in time. Okay, so the combined arts are those whose medium can be both seen and heard. Okay, and this exists in both space and time. Okay, so that's auditory. So later we'll focus more on the music. Now, when it comes to the auditory arts, no, as a classification also of art based on the medium, as basis for the medium. I remember my major and minor, right? As I mentioned also at the beginning, and also in the previous lesson, ano? So music is a major art, no? It's a type of major art, no? Now in this lesson, music is a type of auditory art on the basis of medium, on the basis of medium. Okay, but the other classification, it's a major art. It's a major art. Okay, class. Excuse me. Now, this is what I'm talking about a while ago. Now let's connect the artist and the medium. Okay. But of course, we know that, as I mentioned, the basic elements and principles of art are understood here, no? Also implied here, no? Are part of this also. It's just that this time let's focus, because last time we focused more on the artist and the basic elements, right? Excuse me, and the principles of art in the last lesson. This time, the artist and their medium, but while discussing this, bear in mind that the basic elements and principles of art are still here, no? Are still here. Okay, so what the artist thinks and feels are given shape using the medium. Okay, when the artist chooses their medium, they believe that this can best express the idea that they want to convey. Okay, so that's why without the medium, it's useless, no? The artist is useless, and these elements, even he has these elements, basic elements, no? And the principles of art, useless without the medium. Because of this, no? And also because of this, most often an artist employs more than one medium to give meaning, no? Because of the meaning also, no? To their creative creation. In fact, you can have more than one medium. You can have two. Okay, to give meaning. That's how important medium is, because without it, your art has no meaning, no? In fact, you can have more than one, as mentioned here, no? To complete the meaning of your creative production or creation. Okay, so this is part of the artistic inspiration. So it's part. It's not the whole thing, but it's part. Okay, because we know that to complete it, we need the artist, as I keep on repeating, no, so that you won't forget, the basic elements, the principles of art, and this one, the medium. Okay, but of course, they need us as well, no, because we'll be the one to appreciate their work, no, or criticize their work. Okay, but here we're just referring to the art itself, no, the art itself. Okay, so the distinctive character of the medium determines the way it can be worked on and turned into a work of art. That's why it's important for us to discuss more about this medium, when it comes to the medium of visual arts. What are this? Medium of sculpture. What are this? Medium of music. What are this? Important because the character of the medium determines the way it can be worked on and turned into a work of art. Okay, the nature of each medium determines how a work of art may be realized. Okay, that's why later, the lessons later are very important, because it will tell us the nature of the medium, no? Because this one determines how a work of art may be realized. Okay, so that the audience asked, will be the one to appreciate it or even criticize it based on how it is realized, no? How the art or the work of art is realized, no? Through the nature of the medium. Okay, but of course, as I mentioned, even though I mentioned medium, the artists are implied there, no? The importance of the artist and the importance of the basic elements and the principle of art are are important. Okay? Okay? So because I already mentioned to you the relationship among this, no? They cannot stand by themselves. No? They need each other. No? They need each other. Okay, so even though I just mentioned medium here. Okay, class? So now to proceed, now the technique, I also mentioned technique at the beginning, no? The technique and the medium. When you talk of medium, you talk of technique also. Okay, why? Because technique is the manner in which artist controls their medium to achieve the desired effect. Okay, it is the ability, meaning the ability of the artist with which he fulfills the technical requirements of his particular work of art. That's why requirement, not technical requirements. So when you talk of medium, you talk of technique also. So we have these different painting techniques, no? Fill in shape, outline, shape, dabbing, streaking, blending, scambling, overpainting, wet on wet, no? Graffito, textures, dry brush. Okay, and then it has to do with the way this technique has to do with the way he manipulates. So you notice control. The art is controlling, no? The medium, no? Okay, controlling the medium and also manipulating the medium, no? Manipulates the work of art and the way he manipulates the medium in order to express the idea. That's why important the artist, no? And also, of course, here it's not mentioned, the basic elements and the principles, no? Understood already that they are important as well. So artists differ in techniques, but despite using the same medium. So that's possible, no? Same medium, probably the same using stone or the wood as medium, but different techniques, no? Then it will come up with different message, possible different message, no? That's why it may have different appreciation from us, not from the audience. Anyway, these are other techniques: dry brush, gradient, washing or thin paint, splattering, wet on wet again. So I remember we have wet and wet here also, but they're probably using different medium. You notice it's kind of watercolor, no? The watercolor will be mentioned later, no? But the technique is wet on wet. But if you will look at this, also, no, wet on wet the technique, but use different medium, no? Okay, probably I'm not really sure, probably paint, no? So anyway, and then we have here pouring, and then impasto, and then palette knife, and then gel medium. All these are different techniques, but you can use different medium, no? Or okay, so or the same medium but different techniques. Okay, or the same technique, also possible class, no? Like this, no? Same technique but different medium, no? Wet on wet, and then the other one is also wet on wet, right? So yeah, so I think that's it. So next is, now we can talk of, now this is what I'm talking about regarding the three, the major, one of the major lessons, major topics for today, this one. So we have three, right? So this is the start now. We have three: medium of visual arts, and then next is medium of sculptures, and then next is medium of music. I have to mention this class because there are a lot of headings here, no? If you notice, there are a lot of headings, no? So if I don't mention this outline, you'll be you'll be disorganized, no? Disorganized in a way. So anyway, let's continue about this. So what are the examples of the mediums of, or the types of visual arts, no? When it comes to the medium, no? The medium. So again, just to recall, no, when we talk of visual arts, we can classify that into two. Just to recall, we have the two-dimensional, right? When you talk of visual arts, we have two-dimensional, and examples are this. That's why later we'll talk about this again: printmaking, and the other here, the painting and the drawing. Huh? And then we also have this, the commercial decorative art. Okay? Community planning, industrial design, ceramics, furniture making. Okay, so these are the two classes, but this time we'll focus on the medium. Okay, the medium of visual arts. Okay, while discussing this, bear those classes in mind, no? Those two classes. No? So what is the first one? Watercolor. Okay, I remember I mentioned about watercolor. This one is we're very familiar with this because of our elementary, no? Art classes, no? Elementary art classes. No? We're used to this one, watercolor. No? As a medium, watercolor is tricky to handle because it is difficult to produce warm and rich tones. No? While changes may be made once the paint has been applied, such changes normally tend to make the color less luminous. No? This effect, however, are rendered by watercolor artists through some techniques. Now I'll show you a bit. Next is the next medium of visual art is fresco. No, the fresco. So this one is an example. This is the painting on a moist plaster surface with colors, no? Ground in water or a lime water mixture. The colors dry into the plaster and the picture becomes a part of the wall. Fresco must be done quickly because it's an exacting medium, no? So I think you can see the difference with the watercolor, no? When it comes to the medium, no? Okay, probably to you, to some of you, this is better than the fresco, no? But it really depends, no? This fresco is better than the watercolor. No? It still depends on the eyes of the beholder, no? The one appreciating the art, no? And also the artist, no? Because the artist will be the one to decide what medium, right? To convey the idea or the meaning that he wants to tell the audience regarding his or her artwork, no? Okay, so so the fresco painting is a work of wall or ceiling art created by applying pigment onto intonaco, no? Or a thin layer of plaster. Its title translates to fresh, no? That's why fresco, no? In Italian, as a true fresco's intonaco is wet when the paint is applied. Okay, so this one is an example of an art using fresco as a medium, and then this one also is another example of visual art where fresco is used as a medium. No? So there's another one, tempera. Tempera paints are mineral pigments mixed with egg yolk or egg white and ore. They're often used as a binder due to its film forming properties and rapid drying rate. No? Next is pastel. No? The stick of dried paste made of pigments greyhound with chalk and compounded with gum water. No? Its colors are luminous and it's a very flexible medium. Some artists use a fixing medium or a protecting surface such as glass. When the chalk rubs, no, the picture loses some of its brilliance. No? So that's pastel as a medium for visual arts. Okay. Next is encaustic. One of the early medium used by the Egyptians, no, for the painted portrait on mummification. The mummification. No? This is done by painting with wax colors fixed with heat. No? Painting with wax produces luster and radiance in the subject, making them appear at their best in portraits. Okay, an example of that. Next medium is the oil. I think this is very popular, Mona Lisa. No? Oil painting is one of the most expensive art activities today because of the prohibitive cost of materials. In oil painting, pigments are mixed with linseed oil and applied to the canvas. One good quality of oil paint as a medium, it's its flexibility. No? The artist may use brush, a palette knife, or even their bare hands, no, when applying paint in the canvas. In some cases, we do not even notice the artist's strokes, no, because the paint is applied very smoothly. Painting done in oil is glossy and lasts long. Now, the acrylic, no, the one mentioned in the video, no, acrylic. This medium is used popularly by contemporary painters because of the transparency and quick drying characteristics, no, of watercolor and the flexibility of oil combined. Okay, so the properties of the two medium combined into this one medium, no? And that those two medium are the watercolor and the oil, no? And what is that property of the oil? Flexibility. And what is that property of the watercolor? The quick drying. These two properties, no, or features are satisfied by this medium of visual arts called acrylic. No? This synthetic paint is mixed with acrylic emulsion binder for coating the surface of the artwork. So acrylic paints do not tend to break easily, no? Unlike oil paints, which turn yellowish or darker over a long period of time. Okay? So to continue, another one, mosaic. This one class is very familiar to us, ano? Just like the in elementary days, just like the watercolor, no? The mosaic, no? Mosaic art is a picture of decoration made of small pieces of inlaid colored stones or glass called tessere, no? Kind of related to tessellation class. Remember tessellation art? which most often are cut into squares then glued onto a surface with plaster or cement. Mosaic is usually classified as painting, now, although the medium used is not strictly pigment. If you look at the art, it's more of abstract. Now, that's why probably this is to develop the abstract thinking of the, when we were not to develop our abstract thinking when we were elementary, no? The mosaic or the tessellation. Remember tessellation? So next is stained glass. So usually we see this in the church, no? Yeah, it's mentioned here, no? Stained glass as an artwork is common in Gothic cathedrals and churches. This is made by combining many small pieces of colored glass, which are held together by bands of lead, no? Okay, next is, we're still on the another class, huh? The medium of visual arts. Medium of visual arts. What's the other medium? Tapestry or tapestry. This is a fabric consisting of a warp upon which colored threads are woven by hand to produce a design, often pictorial and for a wall hangings, not like this, and furniture woven. But it's so big, class, no? It's so big. During the Middle Ages, they were hung on the walls of palaces and in cathedrals on festive occasions to provide warmth. Okay, so this one, an example. So next is drawing. This one also is very familiar to us, no? During our elementary days, the drawing in our art classes, no? Usually done on paper using pencils, penciling, or charcoal. It is the most fundamental, of all skills necessary in the arts. That is why in elementary we learn about this skill, no? It's because it's fundamental, no? In our art classes. Okay, so more about drawing, no? Drawing can be done with different kinds of medium, and the most common is pencil, which comes in different degrees of hardness or softness. With pencil, lead, or the graphite, depending on the kind of drawing the artist will undertake. For line work, hard pencil lead is applied. Okay, the line work. Ink is one of the oldest mediums still in use, no? It offers a great variety of qualities depending on the tools and techniques used in applying the ink on the surface. Again, the technique, no? The technique used when you in the medium, no? Okay, so next is, yeah, this one is another medium of visual arts, type of medium of visual arts. Bistre is a brown pigment, as you can see here, extracted from the soot of wood and often used in pen and wash drawing. So what is this soot? So soot is a black powdery or flaky substance consisting largely of amorphous carbon produced by the incomplete burning or organic matter. Okay. Next is crayons. Again, this one is familiar to us, no? In our elementary art classes, no? Crayons are pigment bound by wax and compressed into painted sticks used for drawing, especially among children in elementary grade. So true enough, elementary, no? They adhere better on paper surface. Okay, class. Next is silver point. This one, my first impression to this, in the way that I look at this art, peaceful, no? The impression, I don't know, for me, no, it may be different to you. For me, peaceful. But if you look, stare at it on the face, no, there is also the impression of sadness, no, the sadness. But initially, probably because of the color, because of the influence of this medium, no, probably that's why it looks. There is an impression of calmness, no, or peacefulness. Okay. Now, in this medium, the artist has technique of drawing with a silver stylus on specially prepared paper to produce a thin grayish line that was popular during the Renaissance period, the silver point. Now, the printmaking, no, the one mentioned a while ago, the printmaking, okay, as one of the medium of visual arts. Printmaking is anything printed on a surface that is direct result from a duplicating process. No? Ordinarily, the painting or graphic image is done in black ink or on white paper and becomes the artist's plate. So, since it's printmaking, so that means you need printer here, no? Maybe a different kind of printer, no? To be able to produce this type of medium for visual art. Now, let's discuss the different, another, I don't know, title, no? 5 major types of prints, no? So we have these 5 major types of prints. So let's start with, again, this is still under the class, huh? So might lose track. This is still part of the medium of visual arts, no? So under the printmaking, no? The 5 major types of prints. So we have the first one, which is the woodcut. Okay, so what is this woodcut? An example is this. This is made from a piece of wood. The design stands at relief, the remaining surface of the block being cut away. So a wood block prints just as do the letter of a typewriter. No? The lines of the designs are wood, so they are very fine. Wood cuts can be identified because of their firm, clear, and black lines. Okay, as we can see in this example. No? What's another type of print? So we have the engraving. No? This is the art of forming designs by cutting, corrosions by acids. No? In engraving, the lines of the signs are cut into a metal plate with ink and transferred from the plate to the paper. So an example is this. The lines of an engraving are cut by hand with an instrument called burine. So what is this burine? A steel tool with a oblique point and rounded handle for curving with stone and engraving metal. Okay. So next is the intaglio. Intaglio is an example of this. Is the one. It's a printing process in which the design or the text is engraved into the surface of the place, and the ink is transferred to a paper from the groover. No? The design engraved or etched into a metal plate. So what's the fourth type of print when it comes to printmaking as one of the mediums, no, for visual arts? So what's the third or fourth type of print? We have the stencil printing, no, like this. Okay, so you see this stencil printing. Stencil printing is the cutting of the design on the special appear cardboard or metal sheet in such a way that when the ink is wrapped over it, the design is produced on the surface. Usually for the shirt, no, we apply this on the shirt, no, as a sign on the shirt or cloth. Okay, stencil printing. Next is the last one, relief, like this. Involves the cutting away from a block of wood or linoleum, the parts of the design that the artist wants to be seen, leaving the portion of the design to stand out, wants to be seen, no? To stand out on a block or on the linoleum. So those are the 5 types of prints under the printmaking, no? Under this, under the printmaking, where printmaking is one of the medium used for visual arts, no? Visual arts. Okay, so I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken, for the visual arts. So let's go now to the second one, the second major topic for today's lesson, which is the types of medium for sculpture. Okay, so let's start it. So we have the stone, no? I think we mentioned this a while ago already under the visual arts also. Stone is the hard substance formed from mineral and earth material, no? The finish is granular and dull in appearance. These are normally used for gravestones in cemeteries, no? Stone. Next is granite, no? Granite is a granular igneous rock composed of feldspars and quartz, usually combined with other minerals, and it's quite difficult to chisel. This is good for large works with only a few designs. Now, remember in science, I think earth science, now we learned about the types of rocks, and igneous is one of it. No? Remember we have 3, igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic rocks, right? So this one, we use a type of rock now for this art, granite. No? Okay, so next is marble. Marble is limestone in a more or less crystalline state and is capable of taking a high polish, occurring in many varieties. Now, it's easier to carve than granite. No? So again, this is a what? This is a type of medium for sculpture. No? Okay, then the next one is jade. This one to me looks cool. No? This one looks cool to me because of its color, no? The green color and the shiny surface. No? And also because of this one. The totality of the art. No? Anyway, jade is a fine color, again, a fine colorful stone, usually green, and used widely in ancient China. It is highly esteemed as an ornamental stone for carving and fashioning jewelry. No? Jade. Okay, next is ivory. Ivory comes from the main parts of the tusk of elephants. It is the hard white substance used to make carvings and billiard balls. Ivory as a type of medium for sculpture. Next is metals, no? I think you're also familiar with this because in our science class, no? We talk about metal as an element, no? Metals include any of a class of elementary substances such as gold, silver, or copper, all of which are characterized by capacity, ductility, conductivity, and peculiar luster when freshly fractured. In our science class, right? In your science class, these are like properties of metals, no? Conductivity, ductility, and then the luster, no? You remember? But again, we cannot use all the metals no, that we learn in science for the art. No, we have like selected like gold, silver, copper, no, and others, no, like the bronze, no, like the bronze. So traditionally, the metals that have been the medium for sculpture are copper, brass, bronze, as I mentioned, gold, silver, and the lead. Aluminum is a recent addition to the list, so we can also use aluminum as in the metal no, as a medium for sculpture no? But not all. We know we have a lot of metals no, as we studied in science no, in our science even in elementary you study about elements already, metal as an element no? Even you in elementary years no? So anyway so only this these metals can be used, and aluminum added in the list no, for sculpture, medium for sculpture. Then we talk about the bronze, right? Bronze. So bronze is another byproduct of metal consisting. This one is an alloy, no? Meaning you combine the two metals, no? Product of metal consisting of an alloy of copper and tin with color, and it's one of the most universally popular metals for sculpture. The bronze. Bronze as a material is strong, durable, and resistant to any atmospheric corrosion. Okay. So next is brass. Brass is an alloy. Now, we have another alloy of metals, no, alloy of copper and zinc to produce brass. No? It's not popularly used by artists because of its limitation as a medium. No? Although it has many practical uses, brass does not rust and it takes a brilliant polish. No? That one is good. No? It does not rust unlike other metals. No? Though it has limitations, but still useful. No? It's still used as medium for sculpture. No? Because of that property, of that characteristic, which is it does not rust and it takes a brilliant polish. No? Next is the copper. The copper has a peculiar brilliance. No? It is used as a caustic medium. This is shaped by hammering. No? Then the silver and the gold. No? This is the most common for metals used as medium for sculpture. These metals are used as casting materials for small objects like medals, coins, and pieces of jewelry. No? Because they are quite expensive, they are used for either personal accessories for religious adornments, no? Okay, like this, or even for rosary, probably. Okay, next, the lead. The lead is the one used in pencil, right? So lead is a bluish gray metal used for casting and forging. No? With the help of a welding torch iron, it can be worked into a variety of unique and exciting forms like this. No? But the medium used here is lead for sculpture. Okay. And the plaster. No? Plaster is a composition of lime, sand, and water. No? Plasters work on an armature or of metal wires and rods in addition to the various materials and fibers. This is applied on walls and ceilings and allowed to harden and dry. Now, the medium is used extensively for making molds, no? The plaster, architectural decorations, and other indoor sculptures. No? This plaster used as medium for sculpture. Okay, class? Now, the clay. The clay is also common because we use this in our art classes, no? Elementary art classes, no? The clay. Because you can mold it, no? You can mold it. Clay is a natural earthly material that has the nature of plasticity. Okay, again, that property, that's why it's also good. When wet, consisting essentially of hydrated silicates of aluminum used for making bricks and ceramics. Okay? And then this one, the glass. The glass is a medium for sculpture. No? This one is hard, no? Brittle, non-crystalline, transparent substances produced by fusion, usually consisting of mutually dissolved silica and silicates and contains soda and lime. Now, this reminds me of a science fair project. In a science fair project, we're a team here. No? We're a team. We're able to produce glass, no? From a waste material. No? Waste material. You know rice hull, no? Of course, you know rice. The rice is the white, right? Now, before it becomes a rice, there is like a brown cover, no? And that brown cover is the rice hull, no? So in our team, we competed for science fair, no? And we used the rice hull because waste material, no? To produce a glass. No? And actually, we even won, in that competition because we use waste material to produce a glass, to produce an art, no? An art, no? And in that glass that we produce, we're able to produce different colors. Now we have the transparent or the clear, and then we are able to produce the green color or even the brown color because it has to do with what we did. How did we produce it? just a small, short story. What we did is just like rice coffee, right? The rice coffee, you fry the rice, right, to be able to make it black. And then once it's black, you can now have your rice coffee, no rice coffee. So the same thing. Now what we did with the rice hull, we turn it into black and then we ash it. When if it's ash, its color is of course ash, a gray color. But to produce a glass, we need to fusion. We cannot do it by ourselves, no. Using the available materials, no, we cannot. So we collaborated with the Republic Glass Corporation. So we're students, huh? We're students. So we're assisted by those, by those employees in that corporation, and then assisted us to fuse the ash. When you say fuse, you have to melt them, no? And then after fusion, because we need a higher temperature, no, a higher temperature, then we're able to produce different colors of glass using their equipments. No, the color I mentioned to you, no, the clear glass, the green color like a Sprite bottle, and then the brown, just like the beer bottle. No, now the reason for that is rice hull is rich in silica, but it will have a high percentage if you remove the impurities. And one way to remove the impurities is by heating it, no? Either in the form of making it black, or making it ash, or melt it. If you melt it, that means a higher temperature. Now the color will depend on the temperature. The higher the temperature, the clearer the color, no? The whiter the color, no? Because of the impurities. There will be more impurities if it will be less temperature. No? That's the reason for the coloring. No? It has to do with the fusion temperature. Okay, class? Anyway, just to share to you that without knowing it, we're able to produce an art, which is where we use glass as the medium. No? Anyway, but it's not completely for sculpture. No? But anyway, we're able to form something there. No? But the shape of the shape of the container only, no? That's the sculpture that we're able to produce. But of course, it's not intentional, no? It's accidental. Okay, accidental that we're able to form that that shape. No? But our intention really is just to produce a glass out of rice hull. Okay, rice hull ash. Okay, so just a short story regarding this. This one we don't do it in elementary because it's dangerous, no? Because it's glass, no? So we don't do that in an art class. Okay, so elementary art class, unless your course or your hobby related to to this type of medium or sculpture. Okay, so now the wood. Now the wood is another medium for sculpture. Now, as a medium, it's perhaps easier to carve than any other media available because it can be intricately carved and subjected into a variety of treatment, not possible with stone. Okay, so now this is the last part, class. No, so far this is the last part, the third part. So we discussed the medium of visual arts, the medium of sculpture, and now the medium of music, which is under the auditory art. Remember, we talked about the two classifications of art on the basis of medium. We have the visual arts, which we've discussed already, the medium, and the auditory arts. Now, under the auditory arts, we have we can think of the literature and the music, but the focus here is the music, no? Under the auditory art, and we know that the medium used for music is the sound. So what we'll talk about here is the sound produced by instruments, not by human voice, by instruments. That's what we will tackle here now. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we have four types of four types of instruments, no? And these are the wood. I think I mentioned it already. The string, the woodwind, the brass, and the percussion. Okay, but let me read this. Music deals with sound. The medium of music is the sound produced by man and the human voice, and by most musical instruments. The musical instruments which have a resonator and a system for producing and regulating fixed pitches, no, are grouped into four main types. So it has to do with the pitches. The grouping has to do with the pitches. No? Stringed, woodwind, brass, and percussion instrument. Let's discuss the first one, stringed. Example of string instrument. Some of them you're familiar with, no? Or maybe you just see them from the picture, not from the picture. To be honest, yeah, I think most of the instruments here, I just see it from the picture, no, not really in actual, no, from the picture. But the rest, yeah, I think if not all of us, most of us see them already in actual. No? Okay, let's start with the string instruments. So we have the violin. We're all familiar with this. The smallest of the string instruments and has the highest pitch. No? Among the string instruments, it has the highest pitch. Next is the viola. The violin and viola are played by tacking the instrument under the chin of the musicians when they are playing. No? So under the chin. No? But the viola is bigger than the violin. No? This is the size usually. No? And then the next one is the cello. No, the cello, it looks like, I don't know, it's string, right? But the only difference that this one, you don't put it under your chin. No? Just imagine you put it under your chin. No? So it should not be. The cello is much larger than the violin and it's longer, thicker, and heavier strings. Okay, that's why you cannot put it under your chin. Okay, and in its nature is to be played this way. No? It has to be played this way, the cello. Next is the double bass. Double bass is the longest. Look at that. No, look at that. The longest of the string instruments and has the lowest pitch. No, has the lowest. Because it has to do with the size, not the size. The size. The pitch has to do with the size. Okay. The distinguishing feature of the string instrument is that the smaller the size. Oh yeah, that's what I mentioned. The smaller the size, the higher the pitch. The larger the size, the lower the pitch. That's why this one has the low, because of the size, not bigger. It has the lowest pitch, no? Because it's the biggest among them. Okay, next. Excuse me. So next is the harp. This one we all usually see this in the movie, and it looks cool, right? The harp. So one of the oldest string instruments, consisting of a triangular frame formed by a sound box, no, a pillar and a curved neck. And having strings that are substretched between the sound box and the neck are plucked with fingers. No? Excuse me, class. Next is guitar. This one is very common to us. No? Very common, the guitar. Probably you have this in your home, no? In your house, the guitar. Guitar is a string musical instrument with a long fretted neck and a flat, somewhat violin-like body and has 6 strings which pluck. Okay. Now let's talk of the second one, the woodwind instruments. No? The woodwind instruments. So the wind instruments consist of tubes usually made of wood. That's why woodwind, no? Which have holes on the sides. When one or another of these holes is open or closed, air inside the tube is changed, thus producing tone of varied pitches. No? Again, we're talking of pitches. No? The keys are set and arranged to suit the natural position of the fingers of the musician while he plays the instrument. No? So let's have an example of a woodwind instrument, the flute. The flute is a musical wind instrument consisting of a tube with a series of finger holes or keys in which the wind is directed against a sharp edge. The flute produces a melodious sound, and so it often plays solo parts in orchestral compositions in a concert. No? Next is the piccolo, a small flute sounding an octave higher than the ordinary flute. Okay, this one. And the clarinet, a woodwind instrument in the form of a cylindrical tube with a single reed attached to its mouthpiece. It has a wide range and usually plays an alto part when the flute plays the melody, no? Alto. Okay, so next is the oboe or oboe. Oboe is a wood instrument having a slender conical body and double reed mouthpiece. The tone of the oboe is nasal, no? Or probably oboe. I'm not really sure because I'm not familiar with this. No? So the tone of the oboe is nasal. No? So through the nose. Okay, bassoon. Bassoon is a larger woodwind instrument of low range with a double tube and curved metal crook to which a double reed is attached. Okay, so probably you're not, or we're not familiar with this anymore. The bassoon, or probably you are familiar. Okay, the bassoon. Now let's talk about the brass instruments, the third one, the brass instruments. Okay, so we have the string, the woodwind, and then now next is the brass instrument. The last one is the percussion instruments. No? So brass instruments. The brass instruments consist of a cylindrical brass tubes of varying lengths. No? Varying lengths. So what's the example? Trumpet. Okay, I think we're all familiar with this, the trumpet. No? A brass trumpet with a powerful tone consisting of a tube commonly carved once or twice around on it and having cup-shaped mouthpiece as one end and bell at the other. Usually we see this in fiesta class, no? In fiesta, right? This trumpet. Or also in the movie, right? We see this trumpet. Yeah, the trumpet. So next is the horn. The horn is a wind instrument originally formed from hollow horn of an animal, but now usually made of brass or other means. Not the horn. Okay. Next is the trombone. The trombone consists of a cylindrical metal tube expanding into a bell and bent twice in a U shape, usually equipped with a slide. Okay, the trombone. Next is the tuba or tuba. Tuba is the base of the brass choir. Okay, it's also now it's based. While we talk about alto, no, alto. It's also a valued brass wind instrument having a low range, no, low range. That's why it's based because of the low range, no. Next is this is the last one. Percussion instruments. So this is the last one, the fourth type of musical instrument, percussion. So what's an example? But before the example, let's read this. The word percussion simply means the striking of one body against another with some sharpness. No? The striking, the stopping, scratching of the instrument with the hand generates some excitement and enlivens the orchestral sound. Usually in the orchestra, no? We see these instruments. The percussion instruments can produce tones of different and definite pitches. Again, we're talking of pitches, no? Pitches. Okay, the chimes or an example. No? The chimes is a musical instrument consisting of a set of slots of metals which produce musical tones when struck. Okay, what's another example? A glockenspiel. Okay, probably we see this, but we don't know the name, no? We see this, but we don't know the name. Because the name itself is difficult to pronounce. No? Glockenspiel. The glockenspiel is a musical instrument composed of a set of graduated steel bars mounted in a frame and struck with hammers and used especially in bands. No? So in band, in like band group. No? So anyway, next is cymbals. Now this reminds me of the monkey and the cymbals. Now the cymbal is a concave plate of brass or bronze that produces a sharp ringing sound when struck, played either in pairs by being struck together or simply by being struck by a drumstick. No? Monkey in the movie. No? Anyway, next is xylophone. Yeah, I think this one is very familiar to us, the xylophone. Probably we haven't really seen it in actual, but very familiar to us, even when we were still kinder. Because remember the alphabets. Usually this is the example. In the picture is you want to learn the alphabet, no? The letter X. Usually this is the picture, xylophone. No? Anyway, xylophone consists of a graduated series of wooden bars, usually sounded by striking with small wooden bars and small wooden hammers. Okay. Next is the kettle drum. I think this is the last one. Example for percussion instrument. No? Consists of a hollow hemisphere or brass or copper over, which is a stretched skin. Now, usually see this in a band. No? Yeah, I think that's the last one. Okay, class. So that ends the lesson for this week. Thank you very much for attending. Bye.